If you see these signs, you're among the 0.1% rarest chosen ones alive. If you're hearing this message, something inside you has already been whispering what most people have spent their entire lives avoiding, that you are not like the rest. You've always known it, maybe not in words, but in a deep, aching sensation that the world you were born into doesn't quite feel like home. You've watched others chase what never interested you, fit into molds that shattered you, and build lives based on blueprints you never wanted to follow. It wasn't rebellion. It wasn't arrogance. It was something else, something quieter, older, and more precise. You were built differently. And now, that truth is becoming too loud to ignore. Being among the rarest 0.1% of chosen ones isn't about ego. It's not about being better. It's about being burdened and blessed with the ability to see what others can't, feel what others suppress, and carry what most would collapse under. You see, the universe does not randomly assign this role. It selects the souls who've agreed long before this life to carry light into the densest darkness. And that agreement comes with signs. Strange, undeniable signs that, if you're seeing them, mean the veil has begun to lift and your real mission is waking up.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
The first sign, you felt exiled, even in a room full of people who claim to love you. You could be surrounded by laughter, friends, family, and still feel like you're floating outside your own life, watching it like a silent observer. This isn't depression. This is dimensional memory, a trace of the truth that your soul is not from here. You didn't incarnate to fit in. You incarnated to disrupt, to awaken systems that have calcified in illusion. And that kind of presence doesn't come with comfort. It comes with isolation. It comes with the sense that something massive is about to begin, even if you can't explain what. But here's the second sign, one that hits even harder. You've experienced loss, betrayal, or suffering so intense it nearly destroyed you. And yet, somehow, you're still standing. There's a reason. The universe never sends its most fragile souls into the fire. It sends the ones who agreed to be refined by it. If your path has been brutal, it's because your light is blinding. Your soul needed to be forged, not formed. Because what you carry, the medicine, the message, the frequency, it cannot come through comfort. It can only be activated by fire. And you have survived fires others couldn't even name. The third sign appears in how you feel the world. I'm not talking about surface level empathy. I'm talking about feeling the pain of a stranger on the other side of the planet as if it were your own. About walking into a room and instantly absorbing the silent grief behind someone's smile. About hearing a song or looking at the stars and suddenly remembering lifetimes you've never been taught about. This level of sensitivity isn't weakness. It's signal. It's proof your soul antenna is tuned to a higher spectrum. You're not here to block the pain of the world, you're here to transmute it. And that brings us to the fourth sign, the one most people try to suppress. You've had moments of unexplainable knowing, a vision that came true, a voice in your head that guided you out of danger, a dream that turned into reality. Maybe you've shrugged it off. Maybe others told you it's coincidence or imagination. But you know it's more than that, because every time you listen to that voice, things align. And every time you ignore it, you feel yourself drift further from your core. That voice is not random. It's the part of you that never forgot. The part of you still linked to the source. The rarest chosen ones don't just receive guidance, they embody it. But perhaps the most brutal and beautiful sign of all is this: you've tried to deny your calling. You've run from it, buried it, doubted it, and still it keeps coming back. Louder, clearer, closer. That's the thing about true purpose. You can't outrun it, no matter how hard you try. It will chase you through jobs that drain you, relationships that break you, distractions that numb you. It will strip you of everything that is not real until all that remains is what you are. And when that happens, something extraordinary begins to unfold. Because you no longer need signs, you become one. You stop asking for validation and start vibrating with vision. You stop seeking approval and start radiating alignment. You walk into chaos and bring order without speaking. You stand in rooms full of masks and become the mirror. That's the destiny of the 0.1 not to lead with ego, but to awaken with energy. You weren't born to follow the map. You were born to remember the terrain of the soul and light it up for others. But let me ask you something most people are too afraid to face. If your soul already knows it's one of the rarest, why do you still pretend to be normal? You feel the clock ticking. You feel the frequency shifting. You feel the summons getting louder. This isn't just your imagination. It's initiation. And it's time. Because the signs aren't outside you. They're in your breath, your scars, your silence, your wisdom. And if you're still listening, still reading, still here, then maybe, just maybe, this message isn't reaching millions for a reason. Maybe it's reaching you because you're the one who was always meant to receive it. When the world doesn't recognize you, that's how you know you're walking the path of the gods. There is something haunting and holy about walking through life unseen. Not because you're invisible in the physical sense, but because your essence is too vast, too ancient, too incomprehensible to be registered by ordinary eyes. And if you are among the 0.1% rarest kosonons alive, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. You've spoken truth and been met with blank stares. You've extended love that was misunderstood, wisdom that was mocked, and presence that made people uncomfortable without you even saying a word. That's not failure. That's confirmation, because the world doesn't recognize gods until they die or disappear, and even then, it's only fragments they understand. So what do you do when the world refuses to reflect you? When no mirror seems to capture your light, your depth, your multidimensional being? You stop waiting for reflection, you become the flame, you walk the lonely road of self-recognition. You stop asking the asleep to interpret your dreams. You stop expecting validation from systems designed to suppress. And you begin to live from a truth so internal, so sovereign, that even when no one understands you, you understand you. That is what sets the rare chosen ones apart. They do not fold under rejection. They awaken through it. But here's the spiritual irony: the more you align with your divine purpose, the more the world begins to distort how it sees you. Some will say you've changed. Others will say you've lost your mind. And the truly fearful will call you dangerous. Why? Because you're no longer reflecting their projections. You're mirroring their potential. And nothing terrifies the unawakened more than seeing someone who chose truth over acceptance, freedom over fitting in, God over comfort. You are no longer a character in their script. You are writing your own, and that threatens the illusion they've built their lives on. Let me tell you something deeply uncomfortable, but profoundly liberating. Chosen ones are often misjudged not because they're wrong, but because they're early. Your insight, your vibration, your knowing, it arrives before the world is ready. But that doesn't mean it's untrue. It means you are the forerunner. You are the echo of a future most people are not yet attuned to. And that future needs anchors. It needs vessels. It needs you. Not a diluted version. Not the digestible version. But the full, unapologetic, unfiltered embodiment of who you were always meant to be. That's why loneliness isn't just common among the rarest chosen ones, it's essential. Because only in isolation can your frequency recalibrate without interference. Only in silence can the voice of your higher self grow louder than the noise of society. You weren't meant to be entertained by what the world finds amusing. You weren't meant to be distracted by what others call goals. You are here to remember And remembering is a solitary path until you reach the vibration that naturally draws in your soul tribe. And yes, they will come, but not before you stop needing them. The true mark of a God-realized soul is not in how many followers they gather, but in how deeply they can walk alone, with eyes open, with heart intact, with fire burning inside that no external rejection can extinguish. That is when you begin to embody something far greater than self, something that bends reality around your energy, not because you force it, but because you are it. And here's the twist. When you finally accept that the world doesn't recognize you, you stop shrinking in the hope of being seen. You stop softening your voice just to be heard. You stop editing your essence to avoid making others uncomfortable. And in that radical self-ownership, something magnificent begins to happen. You become recognizable only to those who matter, the ones who are vibrating in harmony with your frequency, the ones who've seen the same veils, the ones who've burned in the same spiritual fires. And when they arrive, they won't need to be told who you are. They'll remember you, like finding a piece of themselves that had been missing in the form of your presence. But to reach that level of connection, you must first pass the test of divine invisibility. You must learn to walk through crowds that can't feel you without doubting your worth. You must learn to speak truths that fall flat without questioning your gift. You must learn to keep glowing when no one claps, because that's when your radiance becomes real, not a performance but a pulse, not attention-seeking but God-being. That's the level of spiritual refinement only the rarest can carry. And it's what makes you immortal, not in body, but in impact. So I ask you now, would you still walk this path, even if no one ever recognized your greatness? Would you still live your mission, even if the world misunderstood every part of it? Because that's the real question of the chosen one. Not what can I get, but what am I willing to give, even if no one claps when I do? And if your answer is yes, if your soul rises in silence and still says, I will walk anyway, then know this, you are closer to God than you realize. You are walking the path of the rarest, and the gods are watching. This is why the universe tests you so hard. Only the rare are forged in sacred fire. There's a reason your life has never felt easy. There's a reason the storms seem to find you even when you're standing still. The truth is, the universe doesn't waste its fire on the ordinary. It saves it for the rare, the 0.1%. The ones it sees not as victims, not as weak, not as fragile, but as chosen. And to be chosen is not to be handed power. It is to be tested until your very soul remembers how to wield it. You see, every time the universe breaks you, it's not to punish, it's to purify, not to destroy you, but to distill you down to your most essential frequency. And this frequency, this divine vibration that you've been forged into through the deepest heartbreaks, the worst betrayals, the most silent nights, it's the very thing that will eventually elevate you beyond what you ever thought possible. But not until the fire has done its work. Because only through the sacred fire does a chosen one become indestructible, not in body, but in essence. Most people crack when tested, but you shattered. And there's a difference. Cracking is accidental, surface level, but shattering, that's transformation. That's when the identity you've clung to dies completely. That's when the illusions melt away. When your ego finally breaks open and your soul says, now we begin. So yes, it's brutal. Yes, it's lonely. Yes, it feels like too much. But it's not too much. It's exactly enough. It's divine arithmetic. The weight of your trials is perfectly proportionate to the size of your calling. And this is what makes you rare, not just the signs you carry, not just the spiritual knowing, but your ability to walk through fire that would destroy most people and emerge more awake, more aligned, more dangerous to illusion than ever before. Because the chosen ones don't just survive the pain, they alchemize it. They turn their trauma into tools, their losses into light, their betrayals into blueprints for transcendence. They don't just talk about awakening, they embody it in every breath. But let me ask you something raw and real. What if the universe has tested you so hard, not because it hated you, but because it trusted you? I think about that. Sit with it. What if the intensity of your pain is proof of the magnitude of your potential? What if the chaos you've endured wasn't a glitch, but a sacred design to prepare you for what no one else could carry? That's the truth the rarest souls know deep in their bones. They didn't come here for ease. They didn't incarnate for applause. They came here with a contract, a vow sealed before time. Break me until I remember. Test me until I stop flinching at my own light. Refine me until I can hold the frequency that heals others just by walking into a room. And the universe, being the sacred mirror that it is, said, "Okay, but it will hurt." And it has. You've wept into pillows, screamed at skies, lost people you would have died for, questioned your sanity more times than you can count. And still somehow you are here, listening, breathing, opening, evolving. That is the rarest power of all. Not the ability to manifest glittering things, but the ability to stay on the path even when the entire world around you collapses. You are being tempered like a sword that's meant to pierce the heart of illusion. The universe is watching not with judgment, but with holy reverence. Because when a chosen one finally steps into their true vibration, they become unstoppable, not in the loud, dominant sense, but in the quiet, cosmic way, a way that shifts timelines, that heals generational pain, that recodes energy fields without speaking a word. That's what you're being prepared for. And once you cross the threshold, once you stop asking why me and start asking what now, that's when the fire stops hurting. That's when it starts illuminating. And you finally realize it was never about passing a test. It was about becoming the kind of soul who is the answer. The kind of soul who walks through sacred fire and carries it forward. So now I'll ask you one more thing. A question the universe asks only its rarest vessels. Are you willing to rise, not because the pain is over, but because the mission is ready? The sacred few who don't fit anywhere, because they came to build something that's never existed before. There's a silence that follows awakening, not the silence of emptiness, but of realization. You start to see clearly why nothing ever fit, why no system ever made complete sense, why every place you tried to call home eventually began to feel like a cage. It's because you weren't born to fit into anything that already exists. You were born to birth something the world has never seen before. That's the highest calling of the 0.1% rarest chosen ones. Not just to awaken themselves, but to become architects of a new reality. Not by force, not by rebellion, but by radiance, by walking as such a pure embodiment of divine frequency that the old world begins to crumble simply because your presence exposes its falsehoods. You are the living template of a future reality, and that's why you've always been out of place in the past. Let that sink in. You don't fit because you don't belong to this version of the world. You belong to the one your soul remembers, the one that hasn't been built yet, the one that doesn't have language, culture, or structure to support it yet, but lives as a frequency in your body. And every time you follow your inner knowing, speak your truth, or choose alignment over approval, you're laying another brick in that invisible temple. That's how the new earth is built, not with grand revolutions, but with rare souls living uncompromising truth in a world addicted to lies. That's why you've never been able to fake it for long. Why pretending drained you more than suffering ever did. Why settling made your skin crawl. It's not dysfunction, it's divine design. You are the sacred misfit, the blueprint breaker, the frequency holder for something so new, so pure, so high that it can't coexist with falseness. And that means you'll often walk alone. Not because you're lost, but because the trail you're following hasn't been carved yet. You're the one carving it. And it's time to stop apologizing for that. Stop apologizing for being too intense, too quiet, too visionary, too different. Stop dimming your light so others don't feel burned. Stop shrinking your soul to fit roles that dishonor your essence. You are not here to fit into the story. You are here to rewrite it, from the inside out. And your life, every detour, every death, every initiation has been preparing you to hold that much creative power with grace. Not to dominate the world, but to heal it. Not to be worshipped, but to be remembered. You are here to show others what it looks like to become yourself fully, and in doing so, invite them to do the same. So how do you begin? You stop asking for permission. You stop negotiating with your own knowing. You stop waiting for the right time, the right partner, the right platform, the right sign. This moment is the sign. This breath is the call. The truth is already vibrating inside you. You're not here to discover it. You're here to embody it. And when you do, the whole universe shifts, not all at once, not always visibly. But the very fabric of reality begins to reorganize around your coherence. Synchronicities multiply. Dead ends become doorways. What once required effort now flows. Because when you become aligned with your divine design, life responds. Reality is not fixed, it's fluid. And the rarest chosen ones are the ones who remember how to shape it with intention. But here's the final truth, the most sacred truth. No one is coming to hand you the crown. No one is coming to point you out and say you are the one. Because you must be the one to declare it. You must anoint yourself. The world has trained you to wait for recognition. But the soul doesn't work that way. You become the chosen one the moment you choose yourself. So I ask you, right now, wherever you are, what would your life look like if you finally stopped waiting to be discovered and instead began remembering who you already are? If you've seen the signs, if you've felt the shift, if you've survived what should have broken you, then this message was never random. You were meant to hear this, because your time is no longer someday. It's now. You are among the rarest chosen ones alive, not because of what you've done, but because of who you've dared to become. So rise, and let the world feel what truth looks like when it finally walks in the flesh.